Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Greg Struss Show. I'm Greg Struss, coming to you almost live and direct here from Cable Television City in the west side of Chicago, and I'm glad that you're joining us tonight. Gratitude, gratefulness, those are the things that we think about during this time of the year. And when you're doing this kind of thing and you're here, twice a month, but on every single week for the same time, for the last almost 7 years, 6.5 years we've been doing the show out here, with the good folks here at Comcast in the Elmhurst area. A lot of history in this studio. And it was funny because back when I was a kid, I was a teenager, and we were doing a show at a sister station out of Dalton. The goal was always, I would always want to be out here because they had a great big production department back in the day, Continental Cablevision, and they did shows. They produced shows out here like 2-3 times a week, but not actually 2 or 3 times a week. There was a show that was here every day live from 5:30 to 6:30, and then they reran it from 10:30 to 11:30 with the great Pat Sheffer. And I don't know, the goal was one day to be out here, and now, we're out here, it's been different, and doing a totally different show, by the way, and we're coming up on some changes in our format very soon. So there were some things that I went through that I wanted to try to do and pass on in a television and televised format. Tonight, we're celebrating 35 years or 4 decades of doing shows, not continuously, because there's been periods of time where, I took a little bit of a break and did other things. And so tonight, we celebrate the 35th anniversary of the very first Greg Show, which took place and was produced from Thornton Township High School in Harvey, Illinois. Now, it was funny because back then, I just was 15 years old, and everything I started, I quit. And one of the things that my father always told me was, everything you start, you quit. You quit everything after a couple weeks. You don't apply yourself and la, 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 la. And Dad was always very judgmental and very critical. And I took it very personally, which as a kid, I think you're going to do. I don't know, as I've gotten older, I don't know if my father was really very nice to me, if he was trying to teach me something or what, but it was always that negative reinforcement. And I think a lot of people from my generation went through the same things, but I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of surprised today when people have good relationships with their father, because I never thought that fathers had good relationships with their sons. And it's kind of a crime when you don't have a good relationship with your son. A son doesn't have the choice of coming into the world. And then when you lose a mother, as I did, very young, my father really, he had some issues in his life. So, I kind of took a back seat to everything and everybody. So I found solace and found my calling in television. So one day, I tried out for the morning announcements, and we had a high school, about 2,500 people. And I made the morning announcements. I used to do the morning announcements on Wednesday and Thursday, and it was great fun. And I had a lot of confidence. It built my confidence. And then I auditioned for the news show. Now, the news show, Getting Around, was on forever. It came on the air in 1967 in school. So all of these classes still had these old television sets that we would do shows for. We produced shows. The Thornton Township, or Thornton News Service, TNS, produced shows every day for 10 minutes that ran Monday through Friday after the morning announcements. So here I was, all of 15, and I had an idea for a show, and I pitched it. And what was funny is, it really wasn't funny. I missed the bus, called home, but I couldn't call home because the phone had been shut off. One of the things my father would do, he'd get these attitudes about shutting the phone off. Now, when you have young kids, it's probably not a good idea to shut the phone off. But got tired of paying the big bill, so to speak, which I thought was kind of irresponsible. But that aside, it fueled my desire to do something for me and to finally find something that I enjoyed doing and to take it to the next level, because I had been doing little radio shows on a tape recorder in my basement every time my buddies came over and spent the night. And so that kind of developed into the 10-minute show. It was Inside Thornton and became the Greg Show. And we did that, and did that for 3 years. And I earned my high school letter through communications. I learned, I was the vice president, then I was the president of an organization of 250 people, and ended up in the Hall of Fame. And no one from home ever acknowledged that. No one ever came and said, oh, wow, we're proud of you. That first year, I ended up on WGN TV, and it aired twice in the very early morning. The choir asked me to come out and do that show. I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. We went out to WGN on a bus, and then went back to school. And the next day, we ended up taping the very first Greg show. So I think about that day today, not all the time, but because it marks the 35th anniversary, and here I am as I prepare for that next step. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about keeping that dream alive and some of the challenges that we face in keeping the dream alive, especially as we grow older and have more responsibilities, and listening to others who are either threatened by that or don't understand it. So I hope that's what you get out of tonight, as well as some highlights of some of those very early shows, just for fun and posterity. Is that what we say? Posterity. So anyway, I'm Greg. This is the Greg Struss Show, coming to you almost live and direct from Cable Television City here in the west side of Chicago. I thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Greg, is it true that you are related to Bobby Knight? A curious viewer, John Rhodes.
No, I'm not related to Bobby Knight!
God! Get that out of the way. I feel...
Welcome back to the Greg Struss Show. I'm Greg Struss, and you can catch our program. I always say catch it, but we really watch it because we're not throwing out a rod and reel. We're not fishing. On YouTube.com with the search words of Greg Struss Show, and of course Wednesday nights here on Xfinity Comcast in the western suburbs of Chicago. Now, as we're talking about this 35th anniversary of when I, appeared for the very first time on a television show with my name in it, was on November 30th, 1983. And, it was challenging. We walked into the studio, I had an idea, and the moniker was Keep It Simple, Stupid, because we didn't have a lot of bells and whistles to work with. We didn't have chroma key, and it was a black and white. Chroma key is what weathercasters usually stand in front of, and then you see the graphics in front of it. And back in the day, they did a lot of commercials where you would see someone over the video. We have literally a black curtain behind us, which we adapted that format about, probably almost a year now. And I'm ready for another change, but I just wanted to try to do something different than what we were doing, because it just seems like everybody is doing comedy, sketches, and entertainment now and late night. And it's changed a lot. Television has changed a lot when I first started studying it. And I studied it, and it was a passion. And I kind of lost sight of that for a while. So as the Inside Thornton Greg show ended, when I graduated high school in 1986, I said I wanted to do another show. And so several months later, I ended up going to the cable company that was in town, Continental Cable. It was so nice. It was only less than 5 minutes away. Walked in, met with the gentleman who later went on to the Fox 32 News when it was first starting up as a camera. Great guy by the name of Brian, whose last name kind of escapes me now. Well, it's over 30 years ago, so give me some credit here. So we started going in and did a show every week. And we used to do like 35, 40 shows a week. And then, other people came into my life and said, well, why don't you put it on system-wide, where you can be on lots of different places? So that was nice. We ended up airing for three times a week, various time slots, and started getting a lot of feedback. Then we ended up with a new access coordinator who, we just didn't get along. I was about 19, 20 at the time. She was a little older and, took offense at being called a camera man instead of a camera operator, and always had to correct us on gender-specific roles. And that's like 30 years ago. And we were 19, and some of the guys were kind of goofy, but you know, we were doing a show. We produced a pretty good show. That first year was interesting. We probably did almost 40 shows, produced 40 shows, half-hour shows. If you ask me to remember any of them, I don't know. I can remember some of them. I have most of them. I have most of everything that I ever did. So we ended up doing that show 5.5 years. I ended up airing on WGBO, Channel 66. We worked with Ron Weiner, who became a dear friend. He had just finished up directing Jenny Jones, but was well known for directing Donahue for 10 years, the Donahue Show, which was, you know, a big show. It was a big deal. And to work with someone like that, and to be guided by someone like that, and advised by someone like Ron, was just a great privilege, and it was nice to have those people. So as time went on, I moved, left, went back and finished school. I've been attending Columbia College, working at a police department, doing the show, and you know what? I don't know how I did it. Today, I don't know if I could do that. But that's the passion, the desire, and also that voice in my head that I was quitting everything I ever started. I never quit this. There was a time that I walked away for a while, but I never totally quit it because I was always reading about it and visiting television stations. But you know what? The few times I asked for a job, I didn't get it. But maybe I was too hungry. You know, maybe I was too driven. Maybe I felt the need of having to do this. Maybe it was an unhealthy relationship. So I ended up moving to Michigan, thought I was going to get hired at Wood TV, which was producing a Live at 5 show. That's what I wanted to host. But ended up meeting, you know, the people there, and was a consultant for a while. And, you know, when that ended, I turned to radio, did morning shows for a while, nothing that lasted for a long time. And then ended up starting another show. And I kind of considered that the show, because up to that point in time, it was 14 years. We started 2 years in, ended up getting picked up by the CBS station, WWMT, in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Aired every Saturday night at 12:35, opposite the last half hour of Saturday Night Live. And it was a thrill, but it was a lot of work. And I really came to believe that I was, you know, in over my head. So it ended shortly before my 30th birthday. I decided, you know what, this is just not making sense for me anymore. But I really didn't have a plan which was next, you know, for what was next. And I needed to figure out what I was going to do. And I felt stifled and alone in Michigan, even though I knew many people. It's kind of a sad story, I think, because I had a great life in Michigan, and that show was my life on a certain level. And when it ended, I wasn't really wasn't prepared for that emotionally. And here we are 20 years later, after having that show ended and things that have gone on in my life, and I feel like I'm finally over that. And I remember talking with somebody who had experienced some changes in their life, and who admitted to me that his mother was a sociopath, somebody who was very manipulative and abusive. And he said he had been in therapy for 17 years to get over that behavior. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's a long time, 17 years. I didn't understand it until I faced it myself. It's been 20 years. And that fear of success and fear of failure has stuck with me. And it's ridiculous because, you know what? I can't tell you how many times I'm told, you have the chops, you have the look, you have the voice, you have the skill set to be on TV. Why aren't you doing it professionally? And you know what? That's the next step I'm taking. And we talk about change on this show. And here I am talking about change after having been a counselor for several years. I got into it. I was very passionate about it. But I don't feel that that's my calling anymore. And I come back to the fact that, you know what? I've been eluding, okay, staying away from what I really want to do for fear of rejection or fear of failure or fear of success. And it's been with me for a long time. And I can't tell you, I've spent a lot of hours in therapy, not recently. And things happen in life, relationships change. And, I really think what's important is reconnecting with the people who understand me and understand my skill sets. And those were the people from my past. Perhaps some teachers that I had that are still alive and probably wouldn't mind hearing from me. I don't know. But as we grow older and experience different things in our life, I think a wall kind of goes up and say, oh, well, they won't take me seriously, or maybe I'm too old now, or blah 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 blah. But what I see in every profession is they hire young people because younger people, and I'm not saying that at 50 I'm not young, but I'm saying 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and today's 20 and 30-year-olders are different than when I was 20 or 30 years old. Because when we were 20 years old, when I was 20 years old, I was working and I was doing things. And nobody was really helping me along the way. Now, did I have help in my life? Absolutely. I had wonderful people in my life. And those people are no longer in my life, unfortunately. But you know what? It really taught me a lot that in order to keep dreams alive, we have to stay away from the negative validation. The negative validation is what I believe to be the people negatively validating me, right? It's like, well, you never really had a career, or, you're so good at it, but it's not like you can make a living doing that, so you're gonna have to figure it out. And you know what? In my downtime and everything else, and after having so much time to think and rethink, I feel like I kind of went nuts with it. And like, well, maybe I can't do it. Or maybe I'm going to be stuck on community television. And, community television is here. It's real. And it allows people to do stuff. But if I want to go to the next level, then I need to get real and start applying myself and figuring it out. Because you know what? I did it before, and I can do it again. So keeping the dream real became the challenge. And I knew for several years that I wanted to call people and get a show started, and then I finally did. And all of those people are no longer with me, not because of any disagreement or anything. It just turned out that I wasn't there yet, and I think they wanted more out of it, and that's okay. But I'm eternally grateful that they helped me in getting this started. And we've been going continuously. I mean, we've had, little breaks here and there. And, this last year I did some different things with the show that I'm proud of. But ultimately, I'd like to do some other things. I'd like to, get out there again and start being seen and being heard. Not because of my ego, but because I'm a professional. That's how I consider myself, a professional communicator. So I don't know. It all makes sense, and there's a reason why I'm here, and there's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing for a living at this point in time. So I went out to dinner last night, which I will talk about in just a moment, because there were some interesting things that came out of that conversation, and some clarity for me on a spiritual level about keeping that dream alive and getting that juice back. So tonight we are celebrating the 35th anniversary of Greg's very first show from Thornton Township High School in Harvey, Illinois. And it's a day that lives on 35 years later. I'm glad you're joining us. I'm Greg, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Man periods are good because I think they cleanse your soul. But most men don't look at man periods. They're like, I don't have a period. I'm a man.
Well, give us an example of a man period.
A man period is like, I guess, anxiety, as well as like, you're just like, I have to explain that. A man period, that's pretty hard to explain. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
Ed, have you ever had a man period?
Yeah, I think he has. He's lying.
He's smiling.
He's lying. He's like, oh, shit. Oh. Zoom out.
All right, let's do it again. Pull out.
Yeah, messed it up.
Okay, that's all right.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Say welcome back.
1.
Welcome back, Elmhurst. And now here's your number one celebrity, Greg Struss.
And thank you so much. Welcome back from the Pat Heffer Theater. You're at Comcast.
Is that what that smell is? No. I'm sorry. I mean, that is the deep, dark humility of life. That's it. Send your checks.
And on that note, I'm just looking for some.
I zinged him out of the water. Feels good. Awesome God.
Now,
Awesome.
I was trying.
Hello.
We are back,
Hey.
and welcome to the Greg Struss Show. Show 65, which means that we are, which now means that we're eligible for a pension.
First day with him was in a motel room, you know, getting acquainted
with them.
we got acquainted.
Motel 6, was it?
Okay, stand still. Okay, I'm gonna let Tony sit. I'll let the lead go. Now, if you were to move, take a step, and like you were gonna run, he'd automatically go after you. Good boy, good boy. Now you can fight with him all you want. Good boy. Okay, stop, halt. Tony, out. Out. Back. Put your arms up in the air. Like, yeah, exactly. Okay. It's rough.
Can I pet him now?
You can pedal.
Can I pet him? Can I pet you now?
Like this, you can pedal.
Okay. Nice duck.
I'm Greg Struss, and you are tuned to the Greg Struss Show, and I'm glad that you're joining me tonight. I want to say just me, it's us. That's something that Dr. Malloy used to always talk about. He was our executive producer in high school, and I ended up calling him Mr. Doctor, so he started going by Mr. Doctor. And he always said, keep it simple, stupid. And it used to irritate me because, you know what, I wanted to do things that had more bells and whistles, you know, things that were a little more flashy or whatever. And it taught me that, you know what, the content, if you have good content, the technical stuff doesn't really matter. Now everything is done on iPhones with layers of video, everything else, because you want to make things visually interesting. And we're kind of old school here for the moment, and I've enjoyed it. So maybe I'm a little stubborn when it comes to that kind of change. I don't know. But we're finding it out. And we're doing it every week. And in this series, this is show number 93 in 6.5 years. And there's guys been out here that have shows for 300. I don't know, I've probably done 400 shows or so. And it's the process, and it's learning, and it's passing it on to others, and, you know, an artistic freedom. I always remember somebody telling me that, you know what, this is going to be the greatest time in your life because it's the only time in your life you're going to have 100% creative control. But I don't know, if you've done it for a long time, I think everything can kind of get negotiated. So I had dinner last night with a friend and her husband. It was nice to get together with them and to finally meet her husband. And, you know, the conversation kind of turned to God after a while, and spiritualism, okay, spirituality, not so much religion. But she said, you know, you're kind of lost right now because I don't think you have a connection with God. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I think there's truth in that. And I'm a believer. I'm not ashamed of that. And if you don't believe, that's okay. You know, just like I believe, please don't be offended by that. I'm not offended if people don't believe. What I am offended by is when people, and I won't even say I'm offended, but when people go off about, you know, getting into areas of discussion that maybe I don't agree with on the spiritual side. I try not to engage in that. And yet, I ask other people about their religion. They always say don't talk about money, religion, and politics. But I thought it's okay to talk about religion if I'm asking a question regarding faith, if I want to learn something about a certain faith. Not to debate the faith, but to understand the faith of, let's say, Islam, Muslim versus Catholicism. And here's the thing. Just because people are of a certain faith doesn't mean that they're practicing that faith. On the news, we hear about Muslims and Islam, Islamics. And who's to say that the people that are coming into this country really are practicing that faith? The whole other side of that faith, just like Catholics being on the other side of that faith. And when I say the other side, like hardcore. There's lots of people that were baptized a certain way that aren't really practicing that faith, but do take the tenets of it, being a better person, etc. I think that's universal. So I don't think everybody's into that. I don't think everybody is hardcore into their faith, where they go to church or the mosque or whatever that house of worship is every single week. But there are certain things that we keep from that, I think. I can't say that I'm a practicing Catholic, that I go to church every week. But I do try to practice what I learned, okay? And not preaching it, actually, just trying to be a better person and helping others, so to speak. And I think that's, and that comes with some controversy, and it also comes with some other things. So anyway, we had dinner last night, and I really understand that it's important to have a connection with a higher power or God, or whomever it is that I believe in. I believe in God, okay? So I have to have that connection and speak to him and let him know that I need that guidance. Now, God, I don't believe is going to do it for me. I think he's hopefully going to give me, he's going to give me the strength to make the step. But I feel that I have to make that step. And this discussion last night was also, don't think you're always going to do it on your own, because God's going to make things uncomfortable for you to get it, to ask for help. So I have to be open to that school of thought, because I think there's some truth in that the universe holds answers for us, and it also holds that positive energy in introducing us to people that will hopefully get us to our next level of where we want to go. So I think some things in life are choice. A lot of things are choice. Doing a show on cable is a choice. When I could pick up the phone, call, and probably start talking to agents, managers, whatever. I don't know. It's a daunting task, and it's kind of scary. So anyway, I think those were some good points tonight that we made about spirituality, that connection with God or a higher power in giving us that strength and clarity to start, and motivation, and to say, you know what, I need to make this step and make this change to make me a better person, make me happier, and make me feel more fulfilled in my life. Anyway, you can reach us here at The Greg Struss Show at gstrussband@gmail.com. I always love hearing you. If you have a question about addiction or recovery, something you're looking for a solution for, I can always give you some ideas, but ultimately you have to do the work. I can help you along, and I don't have a problem with that, and I'd love to hear from you, and thank you for tuning in. You can also watch us on youtube.com with the search words The Greg Struss Show. Thank you for allowing me into your home tonight, wherever you're watching, and for allowing me to share this celebration of 35 years of television. It's been quite a journey, and I look forward to continuing it, and you to continue watching. Greg Struss, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye, everybody.